blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste for blood and my tongue keeps bleeding from the words I spit. So sharp, so freezing, so cold. Behold, frostbite they feeling. I could tear you apart or I could go heal them. Don't believe in fate, don't believe in ceilings. I just need a taste and my mind starts peeling. I don't pace myself, I grind on kneeling. Got lust for change, I just love the feeling. I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times. Cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. And I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times. Cause anything worth doing is a
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 3 of Big Hoof Energy. I am your host, Ryan, and as usual, I get to be joined by my co-hosts, Jackson and Kaylie. Jackson, Kaylie, how you guys doing?
Doing good.
All right, today we got the late pick 5 at Aqueduct this Saturday, featuring the Grade 3 Comely Stakes as your feature race. Pretty tough sequence. Kaylie, you're our New York resident over here. What were your initial thoughts going through the sequence?
The Comely drew a pretty good field. I really like Scalable. I like Life Talk a lot. I think I'm going to be playing against Life Talk, but I'm excited to see her come back. A lot of the top 3-year-olds from last year that were running against the likes of Tarifa, Torpedo Anna. So it's pretty exciting to see them all come back. And it's a pretty evenly matched race as well for the most part. And yeah, I thought that this was a good sequence, honestly. Some opportunities for prices as well in some of the other races. So that's always good.
Absolutely. Jackson, how about you? What were your kind of initial takes on it as someone that was betting Aqueduct with me last weekend pretty heavily?
Yeah, I think it's a good mix. I think there's 3 races all in the middle that have pretty heavy favorites that you kind of have to make a decision on. And then the opening leg and the last leg look pretty wide open. So pretty intriguing sequence, I thought.
Absolutely. Yeah, I share in a lot of those sentiments, as this was a pretty tough sequence, but I'm excited to get into it. We start with race 6, which is going to be a state-bred maiden race, and let me get that presented on the screen to help us all out along the way here. I'll get our picks up. Starting race 6, we're going 6 furlongs for 2-year-olds, state-bred fillies, $40,000. Picks are up on the screen. I saw the race 7-6-3. Jackson, you went 8-3-6, and Kaylie went 8-3-2. The number 8 horse is your morning line favorite, Take Me to London, trained by Brad Cox. Kaylie, why don't you kick us off with your thoughts on the 8 horse, and then Jackson, go ahead and take it from there.
So this horse didn't really have an easy debut. She got bumped out of the gate. And then she was able to pass horses, which I think is really good to show that on debut. And she ended up getting a 50 buyer, which if you really take a look, that should be good enough to win here, depending on what some of these first-time starters do and the horse that's switching from the turf to the dirt. But just based off that debut, probably took some learning experience from that and a decent buyer going into this type of field. That's why I landed on this horse. And of course, Brad Cox and Manny Franco has been on fire. So.
Absolutely. Jackson, how about you? You also saw the number 8, Take Me to London, on top.
Yeah, she ran fine on debut. She wasn't really bet for being a Brad Cox firster in those kind of spots. She went off 8-1. I know there was a big favorite in that race that was able to get the job done. But I thought she ran okay, given the context of the race. The big favorite won from just off the pace, and then some big long shots kind of just held on the lead. They're 28-1 and 27-1 were second and third. They were forwardly placed throughout, so no one really did that much running from the back of the pack. So I kind of wanted to give her some credit for that she was able to pass have the field in that spot. And she's one that should move forward in here, right? She's drawn well again. I'd expect to be more forwardly placed in this spot. And this is a drop in class from those restricted open claimers to state bred claimers. It's not a huge drop, but it is a drop. So she's one that you obviously need to respect in this spot. Not really sure what to make of some of these firsters in here, but she definitely has the best dirt race out of the horses that I've run this far.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, field high buyer coming in, or field high dirt buyer, that is coming in here in the second career start for that one. I decided to toss this horse completely. I think in the next two, you have a couple heavy favorites that are going to be tough to beat in the sequence, but we'll get to those in a minute. But my top pick was the number 7, Awesome Roberta. I love that Kendrick hops aboard here because I think this horse has the intent, or I think that kind of shows the intention that they want this horse to be a little forward. Obviously, Kendrick is, a great guy to have on the lead on the dirt there. But I think this horse might end up being lone speed. There's not a ton of speed in here. I know this horse didn't have the lead in either of his first 2 starts, but ran kind of close to a quick first fraction last time out. So I'm hoping that Kendrick just sends hard from the gate and just gets out in front. And I don't know how much talent is in this field. Jackson, you mentioned talking about the number 8, Take Me to London, that this horse wasn't bet in the debut. And I know there was a heavy favorite, but for a Brad Cox firster, regardless of the level, to not take any money, that was enough of a red flag for me to just kind of leave this horse off the ticket. Yep. I just didn't like Leo Frick, I think is how you say the sire's name, but just kind of low percentage for the 2-year-olds. And I was just trying to beat this favorite here in the first leg. So that all kind of tipped me over to the 7 and Awesome Roberta on top. But I like the outside draw. They hit it 23%. Kendrick and Horacio De Paz teaming up. Was third last time out behind a runaway winner in Vehemente, who was a Vacoma bred for Joe Sharp. Matoli's got some strong 2-year-old numbers, around 15% with dirt sprinters and with his 2-year-old crop. So I like those numbers a lot, and I don't know how much it's going to take to beat this field. So I want a horse that's just going to be kind of forwardly placed. We also
real quick, Ryan.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to finish off with the 8 horse.
Yeah,
the horse that was 3rd and then the horse that was 5th, whose name was Gaga's Handsome, kind of got the exact same trip that the 8 horse did. So they're both entered back on Friday, and they're going to be one of the favorites in the maiden race on Friday. So I'd keep an eye on how they do to see if that form is validated or not.
That's an excellent note to keep an eye on. Yeah, Friday, some of those runners are running back, and that can definitely give us a kind of a tip of how live that race may or may not be. Yeah. Underneath, I saw the number 6, but we all had the number 3 somewhere on our field. So we'll go to there next. Jackson, you can continue it, and then Kaylie take over. The number 3, Giants Audible, going turf to dirt.
Yeah, just another one that's getting some pretty significant class relief. I thought she ran really well on debut, considering that once she drew the far outside post in that turf sprint. And Rudy Rodriguez just always races his horses in shape. He's pretty bad first time out, and he's pretty bad second time out. So the fact that she was able to split the field on the grass against a pretty decent maiden group, that was pretty encouraging. She was 4th place in there. Last time, I don't know what happened. I guess she just couldn't really recover after a slow start. And, she was only 13-1 in a large field that day. So someone thinks she can run a little bit. Obviously, you have to hope that the first race is more indicative of her talent levels. And, she's not really bred for the turf. She's really more bred to handle the dirt better. So I would have to expect in her 3rd start for Rudy, who, again, usually races horses into shape, it'll be all systems go with the drop in class, the switch to the dirt. She got the bullet on the dirt, and she should probably be pretty forward in a field that does not have much speed.
Absolutely. And I will say, Rudy Rodriguez, as you mentioned, sorry, let me finish this one thing. As you mentioned, Rudy Rodriguez is not known for having his, first or second time starters. He's 9% for both of those stats. But when you go to 3rd career starters, he is 14%. So that's a decent jump up. So just furthers your point that he kind of races him into shape. Kaylie, you also saw the 3 underneath. What did you like here with Giants Audible?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Jackson said. I mean, the debut was pretty decent, getting a 60 on the turf, but like you said, the horse is more so bred for the dirt, the dam. Her only start, she won first time out sprinting on the dirt at Saratoga, getting a 70 buyer, and then this is her first full to race. So, I mean, just going based off the dam herself, this horse should be able to handle the dirt just fine. And then being by Audible as well, who wins with 18% of his dirt sprinters. So the combination of the two on top of that debut race, I thought put this horse in a pretty good spot here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I definitely echo both your sentiments. I had this horse third. I like the switch from turf to dirt. And then to Jackson and yours point, the third time starter angle for Rudy is one that I really like, as he does really race him into shape. Another horse I want to talk about is I'll have you talk about, Kaylie, is right to the inside. First time starter, Royal Event.
So there were a few first-time starters that kind of interested me. The 5, Sabby's Sunset. The sire has decent first-time out numbers, but John Terranova isn't typically a first-time out type of trainer, so that's kind of why I didn't go with that horse. And then the 4 is the other first-time starter. And this is the dam's first full. The dam wasn't very precocious herself, and then ended up running better on the turf. And then Honest Mischief only has had one first out winner in this first crop out of 25 horses. So there wasn't really anything there that I was super excited about. So I kind of looked towards the 2, although the trainer has a small sample size with first-time starters and maiden claiming. At NYRA over the past 5 years, he is 4 for 21, winning 19% of the time, 38% in the money. The horse has a decent work pattern, specifically 3 back on November 3rd from the gate, work 13 out of 178 horses. So that's a pretty decent work. And then after that, she worked from the gate again on the 14th, 3 out of 52 horses. She worked in 48 flats, so pretty good work pattern. And then King for a Day has a pretty small sample size with this first crop as well, but he has had one first-time out winner out of 15 starters. So, I mean, there's potential there, more so than the other 2, in my opinion. So that's kind of why I went towards this one.
Absolutely. I like it. And Carlos Martin has decent first time out numbers. And again, it might not take a whole lot to beat this group from what we've kind of seen. So if this one is ready first start of this one's career, they're definitely in with an slight upset chance there. The morning line of around 5-1. You'll notice, we have post positions and morning lines today. David Aragona wanted to get a head start on the Thanksgiving break. So thanks to him, because that makes this show a whole lot easier. I don't have to do my counting that I clearly did not do a good job of last week. But
yeah, same.
Jackson, you and I picked the number 6. I had him in second, and or I had her in second. You had her in third. I'll let you kind of take us away here with what you like about Midnight Glimmer.
Yeah, I mean, after the 2 favorites, it's kind of a guess as of right now. The good thing is this race is the start of the pick 5 sequence, so I'm really going to try to use this tote board because, as Kaylie mentioned, the 2, 4, and 5 are all firsters that have some quick works are snuck in there for those. So same with the 6 horse, who has some fast workouts to go back to. And so if any of them are getting bet, I'm probably going to try to maybe use them on a ticket. 6 horse is one that just got a useful debut, but stepped slow and then kind of ran around the track. But again, was working well in the dirt prior to that. So I think it's a good sign that they bother to ship her up here to face New York breds and get her on the dirt. So I won't be surprised at all if she shows a much better effort in this start.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I kind of just thought the switch up from Gulfstream Park up to New York, going onto the dirt, where this one has had some really strong works. I think maybe it just kind of wakes this horse up. Second start of the career. Obviously, Michael Michelli's pretty good up in New York. So yeah, I saw the race 7-6-3. Jackson, you saw the race 8-3-6, and Kaylie, you saw the race 8-3-2. That's the first leg of the late pick 5 at Aqueduct this Saturday. Race number 7 in the sequence is a allowance non-winners of 1 other than open race, 3-year-olds and upwards. We're going 6.5 furlongs. I'll throw the picks up on the screen here. I saw the race 7-8-4. Jackson saw the race 8-3-2. Kaylie and Jackson again in lockstep with their top pick with 8-6-4. And there's no way it's another Brad Cox horse, right? Oh, it is. So, okay. Jackson, I'll let you go ahead and take this one to start here. Vitriano for Brad Cox.
Yeah, believe me, I wanted to try to beat this horse. I remember I bet him last time, and I used him in a double because he was like 2-5, and it was very similar situation where he was the clear lone speed and he was the fastest numbers, and I thought he just ran okay. I mean, he barely held on to win. There was a Wesley Ward horse who we're going to talk about in a little bit that I think he ran a lot better than this horse did. But he just, again, he finds himself in a situation where he's drawn well on the outside. He's again, he's probably the lone speed in here. There may be one other horse that might be interested in going, but in these dirt sprints, if the 2 horses are dueling, I don't see it as a huge issue, especially when you're going to be a very short price. So I had a tough time trying to make a strong case for anyone else in here. He just seems like one you can probably lean on and single and move on.
Kaylie, did you feel the same way here with Vetriano as your top pick?
Yeah, I felt the same way. I mean, it's really difficult to beat this horse. I'm not singling him, actually, but I am including him. There's another horse that is kind of just like a big mystery to me, and that's why I'm not singling him. Otherwise, I would be. But yeah, this horse ran in arguably, like in my opinion, one of the best races of the year, the Alan Jerkins at Saratoga against just really, really tough company. That was like a crazy race. And he's not facing any Bookham Danos or Prince of Monaco's or domestic products here. And yeah, again, he didn't, I think he finished like 6th or something. I can't read that.
Yeah.
If I remember right. 8th, which, it's not embarrassing to finish 8th in a race like that and then come back, and clearly he's in great form. And like Jackson said, he's the lone speed of the race as well. Brad Cox, Manny Franco, there's a lot to love about this horse. So
there definitely is. And I use this horse in second. I am going to try and beat Vetriano here with right to his inside, the number 7, Crazy Mason. I just like this horse coming off the layoff since the spring. Getting a cut back off this off the break here. Has been chasing slow paces, going longer. Coal fronts are really good sprinting, 17% with dirt sprinters compared to only 8% at the route. And this horse has been routing basically his entire career since the jumper. I guess, he had that one sprint in there. This horse is on the Derby trail. They obviously thought highly of him, but now I think this is a reasonable spot for him. Cutting back to 6 furlongs. I know Vetriano's probably lone speed with if Manny has like some strong intentions, but there's some other runners in here that like to be forward. And I think maybe if, we see some New York riders get aggressive here at the winter meet and they try and go to the lead and try and take it to a heavy favorite, maybe they can soften him up in that last half a furlong. Crazy Mason starts picking him up. I'm not super confident in this one, but I do like this horse. I think this one does have a decent shot. I think we maybe have not seen the best of this 3-year-old coming off of the break here. I'm going to go ahead and pick the 7 on top. But again, it's a very light top choice because the 8 also definitely deserves a lot of respect here because, again, that post draw at the end of the day is probably what's going to put this horse in the winner's circle if it's not, just being more talented than the rest of this field. The post position is definitely going to help not facing any kind of outside pace pressure. Horse Jackson, Kaylie, you and I picked in 3rd was the number 4. I'll get down to that one. 4 Print Track. Why don't you take over and tell us why you like this one?
The horse is coming in pretty good form for Rudy Rodriguez. He's been holding his own facing open company. He won a low-level allowance over the summer at Saratoga, got an 87 buyer. That was a pretty impressive race for him. And he's not one that I'm scared to leave off like a pick 5 ticket, but I mean, but he's one that can sit like a decent trip similar to the running style that he already has, if that makes sense. Like, I think that he could sit like a nice trip here. I mean, he just has the most competitive speed figures coming into here as well. And Rudy Rodriguez has pretty good numbers at this level as well. So, I mean, that's kind of why I look towards this horse in 3rd.
Absolutely. Yeah. Print Track is a really hard trying horse and ran a decent 2nd last time out to a horse Spike Zone who got a 97 buyer in that race, came back out to win and repeat with a 97 buyer again. So, I mean, that's a tough loss for that horse, but Print Track is a hard trying individual who's definitely going to give you their best effort. Going to be forward, but, might just kind of sit that cozy trip against the rail. And maybe if they kind of come back to him a little bit, this one's kind of going to get that first run. Jackson, the horse you picked in 2nd is the number 3 Stolen Magic. What did you like about this one?
Yeah, just to finish off Print Track, I thought he might be the one that could challenge for the lead. I know last time he sat off of it, but prior to that, he was always up on the lead. And 2 back, he was in that really tough allowance race. I think we talked about last week where it was super hot pace and he wasn't that far off of it. And Rudy's got 2. So I would expect he's be the one that's going to be try to get some forward position in this spot. Back to the 3-horse for Linda Rice. Kind of a confusing horse because he's got some pretty solid races in there, and then he's got some just absolute duds. So it's hard to know what you're going to get with him. I mean, that race 2 back to at the time Barksdale was in razor sharp form. He was winning everything, and he finished a good second, chasing that horse all the way around the track on a fast pace, and that was a good effort. If he can get back to that kind of effort, he won't be too far off of the favorite. I mean, I still don't think he can beat him. So he could be a horse I could use in second. I was just a little concerned that Kensal shows up here rather than Lescano, who's riding the other Linda horse. I mean, Lescano's riding first call basically for her. Don't want to get too heavily involved with jockey musical chairs, but that it was a little concerning for me for this horse.
Absolutely, yeah. I gave Stolen Magic a good look. Kaylie, I do want you to talk about your number 6 horse, Iridescent here, who is changing barns all over the place, and this is the other Linda Rice horse where Jose Lescano decides to take them out. What did you like about this one?
Yeah, so again, not to play like jockey musical chairs, but definitely to notice that Jose Lescano is hopping on this one. And Linda Rice has pretty great numbers. First off the claim, moving up to an allowance level, specifically under those conditions at Aqueduct over the past 2 years. She's winning at 33% rate, 44% in the money. So yeah, this horse is moving up in class, but early in the year, the horse ran buyers that are competitive enough with this field. And clearly Linda has a reason to be placing this horse here. And with those stats and the way that she's able to claim and move horses up, on top of the fact that I think, based on the morning line, I think the horse is bound. I mean, you're going to have a pretty heavy favorite with Vetriano and, a couple of other horses in here. I think there's a potential to get a pretty decent price. So that's why I put this horse second as well. Kind of intrigued me. And again, if I'm playing with Vetriano, I'm going to try to use a horse like this underneath. So there was a lot to like about this horse too.
Absolutely. And this horse also notably gets first-time Lasix for Linda Rice, stepping up from the Claim 50 level into a protected allowance company. And yeah, you mentioned those numbers. Those numbers are ridiculous for Linda Rice to have those kind of numbers from a claiming level, stepping up versus allowance protected company. So that's certainly a threat. And at 15-1, I would be silly to talk you off of that because this horse has some back races that definitely fit here. So Linda, obviously great trainer and can kind of get the best out of those horses. So that's a really interesting one. That is race number 7. I saw the race 7-8-4. Jackson saw the race 8-3-2. Kaylie 8-6-4. We're moving on to race number 8, which is a 6 furlong affair. We're going state bred 3-year-olds and upward. I keep clicking on the wrong tab here. And this race, we have another favorite, and it comes out of the same Vetriano race as last time. We're all the way to the outside, and what you're talking about. Let's put the picks up on the screen. Jackson, you are the only one that picked the horse on top, yet we all have him in the top 3. So why don't you go ahead and take it away here with what you like, what you feel most confident about with this one.
Yeah, I mean, like I touched upon with the last race, I just thought this horse ran really well off a super long layoff, and there was a 2-5 horse that looked gone on paper and loose on the lead, and that's pretty much what happened. And except this horse kind of just chased him around there. But it's tough sometimes to be in chase mode for a 6.5 furlong race, chasing a good horse, especially off a year layoff. So he was getting that horse late. It was a diminishing half a length. If that race was 7 furlongs, he probably wins. And he got a really strong buyer for that effort. He had strong figures as a 2-year-old, so he's definitely just continued to improve from that. And he's drawn really well again. There's a good amount of speed in here, not like an abundance, but he should get a great trip. And if he runs back to that 92 buyer, he'll be really tough in here. They'll have a tough time beating him.
Yeah, absolutely. That Vetriano and what you're talking about both drew excellent post positions. They're both going to be in basically the perfect spot here, which is frustrating from a bettor's perspective because these are horses that I think all of us probably wanted to beat when we initially looked at the form, but the more we did, it's just tough to do. Kaylie, we'll go to you next with the number 7. Or first, I guess, did you have anything you want to add on the number 10, what you're talking about?
Yeah, and the horse is also coming in with, I think, the highest last time out buyer speed figure as well. So, of course, I mean, I wanted to put the horse on top, but I did put him second because I went towards the number 7, Caldo Candy, for James Bond with Jose Lescano aboard. This horse has won off a layoff before, and ran his career best doing so. And also 7 furlongs is a pretty tricky distance to get off of a layoff. And, the horse has proved he can win off a layoff. He's been working pretty decently, should come into this sharp. And I think that, he's going to be the speed of this race, besides maybe Yo Banana Boy and maybe the number one, who's going to have to go from that post position, who's coming off a longer layoff than this horse is. So I really liked him in this spot. I mean, he hasn't run since August, but I don't really see that as a problem, as, he's won off a layoff before and got his career best buyer doing so.
Absolutely. He does look like one of those horses that just kind of fires fresh. Horse that I picked on top is the number 9 Lock and Key. I think this horse is in really sharp form right now. Obviously going turf to dirt, but has a proven dirt form that I think stacks up pretty well against this level. Should get some solid pace to run into. I think with the one from the rail definitely having to send. Yo Banana Boy is going to be out there. With the 10, what you're talking about, definitely going to be forward. Might be more relaxed now with blinkers off in this situation, but still thinking this one's going to be that one's going to be pretty forward, and that puts the 9 kind of in a great position, just kind of off the leaders there by a couple of lengths. So I think this one's got a shot. Cutting back from the 8.5 furlongs, this one's going to be running late. So that was enough for me to take Lock and Key on top. I love the way Lane Leslie has been riding this fall and winter so far. He's been on some really he's given some great rides to mounts that you wouldn't necessarily think are all that live, but he's come through for me more than one time, so I'm happy to use Lane Leslie in this position. James Ryerson, the trainer here, is great with the New York bred, so it's all Lock and Key for me on top, but obviously what you're talking about is going to be tough from that draw, second off the layoff, firing such a big shot. Jackson, we'll go to you next with the number 5. That is Agios the Great. Is this the one that you chose a few back at a massive number? Or am I mistaking
that? I don't think so. I think it's the first time we've covered this horse.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think we covered Finger Lakes or Saratoga, but anyway, yeah, he comes out. He actually comes out of the same race as what you're talking about, and given the context of that race, I thought he actually ran pretty okay in that spot. And I know those first 2 horses kind of just merry-go-round around there, and the pace wasn't like flying or anything. Actually, you could make a case it was a slow pace that day, and he did well to pass the rest of the field and wasn't being by all that much. Got a top buyer by about 10 points in that race, and he's still just a 3-year-old that seems to be improving. I really think if you toss, I think they finally figured out that he doesn't want to go very far, because if you toss his races about 2 turns and you toss the mile race, his form looks pretty good. So he's definitely just. I just think he's a one run, 1 turn closer, and you talk about there could be a decent amount of pace in here. I don't really know if there will be, but if it does come apart, I don't see why he can't be the one that's flying down the lane at a big price.
Absolutely, yeah. You brought up a great point. Off that last effort where it was kind of just the first and second place finishers just kind of ran around there. This one really made up some substantial ground. Pratt was aboard that day, and I mean, we don't need to. He was in New Mexico today, just having a good day after winning 3 stakes out at Mahoning Valley. But this runner made up some solid ground on the other 2 that just kind of ran around there. So if this one gets some pace to chase this time around, definitely watch out, as George Weaver can definitely have him ready in a spot like this. Meant to ask you guys before I got off of Lock and Key, you both have this horse in 3rd. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, his dirt form is really good. Obviously, he was running on the turf over the summer and the fall, but I mean, when he does run on the dirt, he's pretty dangerous, and he should come flying late. And then he's also switching from like routing on the turf now to coming in here, so he should be dead fit coming into this as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Just wanted to make sure you guys got everything covered with that with your 3rd pick. My 3rd pick is the number 4 Acoustic Avenue. That last run came out of the same race as Vetriano, or what you're talking about, Realist, and Agios the Great, with Vetriano there in first. This horse got bumped pretty hard out of the gate. Might have just gotten the wind knocked out of him that day. I don't know, but it's enough where this horse just didn't seem to have a lot of run left after that moment, but still ran a pretty respectable buyer. I like this horse third off the layoff for Mike Maker here. Stays at the same level, which tells me that at least, he didn't come out of that race poorly. And I think a lot of that did have to do with the bump. Wasn't taking a whole lot of money, but I think I think this horse has the ability to be tactically placed. Elliott climbs aboard this day as Dylan Davis is going to be out in San Diego or Del Mar with Jackson, myself, and some others for the Turf Festival this weekend. So Elliott hops aboard here, but I think this horse has the ability to kind of get the first jump on any deep closers if this race does, for whatever reason, fall apart. So I want to take Acoustic Ave at a nice little number here underneath. That is race number 8. I saw the race 9-10-4. Jackson saw the race 10-5-9. Kaylie saw the race 7-10-9. Again, the number 10, what you talking about? Definitely a tough favorite to beat from that outside draw, second off the layoff off a really good effort. Moving on to race number 9. This is the Grade 3 Comely Stakes. We're going 1 mile and 1/8 for the 3-year-olds here. Let's see. Picks are up on the screen. I saw the race 3-2-5. Jackson saw the race 7-3-6. Kaylie saw the race 7-3-1. So you guys are both interested in just burning money. So I'll let Kaylie take the lead on this one with the number 7 Scalable.
Well, this is a really, really serious horse when you think about who she's been facing. I mean, we can start with the Cotillion. She didn't have, she didn't have a bad trip. She just didn't have like the best trip. She went super wide. She took a lot of kickback on a track where it's like, I don't know, the dirt is kind of funky. So that was, and again, came super wide, and she couldn't run down Torpedo Anna and Gunsong and Tarifa. So that's okay for me. I'm willing to take her here off of that effort. And then if you look at the Monmouth Oaks, she actually beat Gunsong. And Gunsong is a horse that, I've always really, really liked. And the race that she ran against Torpedo Anna and the Cotillion just kind of gives you the idea of, the type of class that this horse has been facing to be able to beat Gunsong as well. And I think that in this race, I think the 6 is going to go, the 3 is going to go. Maybe if they do the dirty work up front, Scalable could sit a nice pocket trip. She's pretty hard to resist at this price at 5-1. I mean, I imagine her taking some more money, but she does present some good value at that price.
She absolutely.
She comes in with recency, and she's in really great form.
She absolutely does. And yeah, she's not much of a money burner for sure. I know I made that joke to start. She just she either runs her race, and in which case, if she runs her race, she knows how to find the winner's circle, or she just kind of just wraps it up. And obviously she's faced some really good company. They've kind of been all over with her, whether it's a 7 furlong in a Grade 3 or on turf going 2 turns over yielding ground. She's kind of done and danced every dance as a 3-year-old. So it's interesting. This one's out of Speightstown, but seems to have pretty good stamina going the 2 turns, which you don't typically see out of that sire. So definitely an interesting one. I didn't have that one in my top 3, but you and Jackson both picked this one on top. Jackson, did you have anything to add here?
Yeah, I just think she's going to love the mile and 1/8. And this is a horse I've been chasing since the Breeders' Cup last year. I picked her as my long shot play underneath, and she ran fine in that spot. And she was good as a 2-year-old in those 2 races around 2 turns. She just didn't really develop in her 3-year-old year until the last 2 starts, when the Monmouth Oaks, she kind of finally put it all together. It wasn't a fast pace. She didn't get a great setup that day from the rail, and she still got the job done that day against Gunsong, was a pretty solid horse. Got an 89 buyer for that effort. And then last time the Cotillion, it was, Kaylie mentioned Parks is just a weird track. Some weird things happened. She actually ran fine. I mean, I know the buyer figure dropped off pretty big, but the time form is basically the same. So if she can get somewhat forward in the spot, just stay in the clear. She's one of those grindy types where I feel like Jose Gomez is going to be pushing her for the last 6 furlongs of the race. But if she can get somewhat forward in the spot, I don't see why she can't win this against this field at a pretty good price at 5-1.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, yeah, again, I didn't have this one in my top 3, but this one, if she runs her A race, she is going to be right there at the finish. This is one of 3 Todd Pletcher entrants. He has the number 6 Audacious also entered, as well as the number 5 Life Talk, who we'll get to in a minute. But I do want to turn our attention to the morning line favorite and the number 3 Alpine Princess, coming off an absolute romp in the Remington Park Oaks last time out. Came off of a spring layoff in that effort and just kind of came back a better horse Just seemed to really have matured over that break. Came back really strong. I know the fractions weren't anything crazy, but she did it all the right way. Obviously, a heavy favorite in there. She won and beat a next out winner who didn't come back to run a crazy buyer or anything like that, but still something to be said for the form holding up. This one's bred Classic Empire out of a Curlin mare, so obviously bred to handle the 2 turns and handle the trip all day. I'm going to take this one on top here. I didn't think that there was a whole lot of speed. This one is either going to be kind of out on the lead or just right behind it. If I think the number 6 Audacious would be the one of the 3 Pletchers to kind of send to the lead. So I'm thinking Alpine Princess just kind of sits off of that, maybe switches off to the outside and just kind of takes over in the top of the stretch. I think there are some others that maybe are better horses in here if there was to be a little bit more pace. But I don't know that anyone is going to – I think Alpine Princess is just going to sit the great trip here. So that's why I used her on top, and she is going to be my single in the pick 5 sequence. You both used her underneath in second. Did you have anything to add on this one?
Yeah, I mean, the last race she ran, that was a monster race. Obviously, she ran a 96 buyer. She won by like almost 10 lengths. And the horse that ran second to her went on to win a listed stakes after, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm not saying like I'm not taking anything away from that win at all. Obviously, she won very impressively. But I do have my concern that, she's facing, I don't know if it's necessarily a tougher group. I mean, she has faced like Tarifa and Intricate and Candied and horses like that. And I wasn't able to find many excuses for a lot of those races where she was against horses like that. Maybe 1 or 2 of them I was able to, but not all of them. So I didn't really want to put her on top at a short price. And I went more so towards obviously scalable in that way. But yeah, I think honestly, because the way I thought about it is that, like you said, the 6 is probably going to go with her. I can see them, the 6 has really good early speed. I could see the 2 of them maybe wearing each other out up front, and it's setting up for someone off the pace like scalable. So that's kind of why I put her second. It's just not because of her talent, but just the way I saw the race playing out.
Yeah, that's a very good observation, and I don't disagree with that. I think this race, if those pace setters do kind of come back, and Alpine Princess really hasn't showed up versus those top runners in Tarifa, I'm just kind of hoping that the break did her some good, and she kind of grew into herself, and maybe she's just a different horse. But if that off the bench effort was kind of just the outlier, and and she'll kind of regress back to what she was before, then it absolutely sets up for another horse. But I felt confident using that one on top there. Kaylie, we'll stick with you as we go to the rail runner in Pretty Anna, runner for Chad Brown coming out of the Mother Goose. Excuse me.
Yeah, so obviously the mother goose, her run in the mother goose was pretty impressive. She does draw the 1 here, which isn't really a concern. She's not a speedy like need the lead type, so she was the horse that I put third. I could see picking up some pieces, and clearly she, again, that last out is kind of an outlier to her other dirt form, but maybe she did improve because she was running pretty well on the turf before that as well. So yeah, I liked her here. I mean, Chad Brown as well, so gotta take her a bit serious. Yeah, I didn't see her winning, but she could be a late closer in what looks like a race with some speed, not a crazy pace, but I could see her picking up some pieces and maybe getting like 3rd or 4th here.
Absolutely. Jackson, I didn't mean to not give you the chance to touch on Alpine Princess, horse you picked in second, if you had anything to add here.
Nah, I think you guys covered it pretty well. I can't let her beat me. The last race was too good. And on her best day, she's probably just better than these. So must use, in my opinion.
All right. I'm going to go right to the outside of Pretty Anna, and that's number 2, Dorothy's Dreams, excuse me. This one also comes out of the Mother Goose, and this one is going to be a bit more of a price, I think, just kind of due to the connections. I mean, they ran similar figures last time out. They obviously Pretty Anna finished just a neck off Tarifa and Gunsong. This one finished 3/4 of a length, but that's not super far off. And I think you're just going to get a better price. This one has more tactical speed than Pretty Anna does, as Pretty Anna kind of comes from relatively far out of it. So I'm going to take Dorothy's Dreams underneath. Again, I think Alpine Princess is definitely the one to beat, but if I have to choose a horse to come out of the Mother Goose, I'm going to want to take Dorothy's Dreams, because I think this one, at least to my eye, which, I mean, Jackson can attest to how good or bad my eye is based on the Citizen Bowl Gaming Futurity Day, but I'm going to go ahead and say to my eye, Dorothy's Dream is going to be the one that I want out of that last run in the Mother Goose. And I know those runners, nobody's come back to run, so we'll kind of figure out how the form of that race held up. But in my opinion, I'm gonna take Mother Goose. I'm gonna take Dorothy's Dreams and hope that this one maybe gets second underneath. And I'm probably just gonna play an exacta and press that up a few times and hope for a bit of price, or hope to make a bit of a price out of Alpine Princess for myself. Jackson, we're going to go to you next, because you picked a Todd Pletcher. However, it wasn't the one I thought you would. And you picked Audacious in third.
Yeah, just real quick. I'm pretty against the 1 and 2 in here. Just that Mother Goose was just, I'm suspicious of that number when you have.
Oh yeah. You sent me a text expressing your displeasure for the Mother Goose.
Yeah. I mean, look, it was a 5-horse field. The pace wasn't fast. It was a blanket finish with all 5 horses. And you have the 1 and 2 specifically are just 2 complete plotters running 15-point career highs. Like I just, or on dirt, I should say. I just don't believe that number. I think it's not as good as it seems like it is. And those 2 horses again are going to be way out of it in a field that doesn't have much pace. So I'm going to look at the 6 horse. This is a horse I think we actually covered last time, Ryan, at Keeneland. Mm-hmm. And I remember we talked about her, and we were suspicious of her because she, did good at Saratoga, and then they kind of sent her to Laurel. Seemed like kind of maybe not a give up move, but just trying to find a much easier spot. And then she actually ran okay. I mean, she chased Landed, who we were both high on. The pace wasn't that fast, but she did put that rival away, opened up on the field, and just got collared late by a better animal in Neon Icon. The number didn't come back that strong again, but she seems like a horse that, is going to be forward in the spot. She probably be on the lead unless the 3 is just dead set and going. So if she gets brave on the front end, I can see her taking this field a pretty long way. And again, Neon Icon is entered on Thursday in a stakes at Churchill, so I'd keep an eye on to see how she does, see if that form comes back, get validated or not.
Absolutely, something else to keep an eye on. That's a great point, just to kind of see how that race comes back. I also checked the weather for this Saturday. It looks very cold, but it doesn't look like any rain is in the forecast for Aqueduct. So I think it's fair to anticipate a fast track there. Before we move on to the final race number 10, I want to talk about the number 5 in Life Talk. I know we talked earlier about kind of jockey musical chairs. Kendrick, I would have to think would have been able to have the pick between these 3 Todd Pletchers, and he chose to sit. He chose to ride Life Talk in this spot, who I think is probably has the best tactical speed. I mean, Scalable is definitely able to be tactical as well, but I think Life Talk is going to sit a pretty nice trip, maybe right off of Alpine Princess if Audacious kind of sends straight to the lead. So that might just set up really nicely for Life Talk here. Again, I'm all Alpine Princess on top, but I do think Life Talk has the chance to take a step forward. This is another runner that took the summer off as a 3-year-old filly and is coming back now. Fired pretty strongly with an 84 buyer last out in the listed stake in September at Churchill Downs. So comes in here second off a bit of I guess it's a layoff because we're almost in December, but comes in here. And if this horse improves again, that's going to put this one real close to the finish line. But I'll take Life Talk in third here. But again, I'm all Alpine Princess on top. Did either of you have any thoughts on Life Talk here?
Yeah, it kind of broke my heart to not pick this horse because I really do like this horse, especially in the beginning of her career. But I mean, if you look at that race that she ran off the layoff she had from December to February, she didn't run that well there. And then obviously she ran pretty well in September at Churchill Downs. But I mean, she's not super consistent is the thing. I mean, if she was a bigger price, I'd probably be using her in some type of way. She could present some value if she floats up. So I guess I'm just gonna, keep a close eye on the tote board. Obviously, she's been facing difficult company mostly her whole career. But yeah, she just wasn't one I was super confident taking at, 4-1 or any type of price like that, with the fact that she's just not super consistent.
Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement on that. I think 4-1's too low, and it surprised me that Scalable was a higher price, having run against Torpedo
Yeah.
last time out, and given she wasn't super close to the finish line in that one, but she won a grade 3 two back, and has, in my opinion, some better form and some stronger races against better competition. So that surprised me a little bit. But I'm not going to tell David Aragona he doesn't know what he's doing, because he does an excellent job day in and day out. So that is race number 9. I saw the race 3, 2, 5 with Alpine Princess on top. Kaylie and Jackson both picking the number 7 Scalable, running out of the grade 1 Cotillion last time out. On top, Jackson 736, Kaylie 731. That's race number 9. We're moving on to race number 10, the get out race of the sequence. And this is typically where we would see the that mile long maiden 20 state bred, but we get a nice starter allowance race going a mile on the dirt today. So picks are up on the screen. Kaylie, you and I have the same top 3 in different order. I saw the race 7, 3, 11. Jackson, you saw the race 1, 5, 7. Kaylie, you saw the race 11, 3, 7. We're going to go all the way to the outside for you, Kaylie. Why don't you lead us off with Modica?
Yeah, so I like first of all, the price on this horse, 9-2, as opposed to the favorite being 2-1, the number 3. So that's kind of why I put this horse over the 3. And also, this horse is pretty interesting. I mean, George Weaver had this horse originally, was running him on the turf, tried dirt once back in January in a maiden special weight at Gulfstream, and the horse was eased, so I just kind of tossed that race out. And then he got claimed and broke his maiden in the next start, going a mile on the turf. And then, George Weaver claims the horse back again, brings him up to Saratoga for a claiming race, going a mile and a 16th, where he got a 77 buyer, finished second, and then moves up to an allowance. Where he, and then he hasn't finished off the board. Ran 2 back in allowance on the dirt, getting an 81 buyer. I thought that was a pretty big effort, 2 back. And then being able to close into a fast pace like this, I feel like would be beneficial for a horse like this. I mean, the pace should be pretty fast here, I'm thinking. So, I mean, this horse can come off of it. I think he has a pretty good shot.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with what you said. I think there should be a fast pace in here. Okay. All right. I guess Timeform was just having a day. It does project a fast pace in here, and it, for whatever reason, with the 11 having the late pace flag, doesn't really have them getting there at the end. However, I would probably disagree with Timeform on that sense, because I did pick the number 11 in third, because I saw something similar to you there, where I think if this one, if you get a hot pace, going that mile can be a tricky distance at this level, where maybe they just kind of go too fast, going kind of sprint speed, almost like it's a 7 furlong race, and that last furlong things can really fall apart. And I'll get to that with my top pick, the number 7. But first, Jackson, I want you to talk about the number 1, Unlimited Potential, who I think it's fair to say his potential is limited. But why don't you take this one away?
Yeah, this is by far my favorite race of the sequence. I'm going to play this one pretty heavily. I'm just completely against the 3 Moorline favorites, which are the 3, 11, and the 4. The 3 especially, who, they cut the 3 horse and Unlimited Potential both ran in the same race at Saratoga. They set stupid fast pace, and they both kind of finished up the track that day. But then the 3s come back and just got one fantastic trip after great trip after great trip, and he just keeps taking advantage of these good trips, and he's just not going to get that today. So I'm all about the 1 in this spot. I think I was pretty surprised to see him at 8-1, because on his best day, arguably he's the one to beat. He's faster early than these horses, and he kind of, when he's at his best, he just runs them off their feet. He goes as fast as he can. He kind of sucks the life out of those other horses that.
Oh, we might have lost Jackson for a moment.
Them early,
So.
And they sorry, say it again.
We lost you for a minute. You said they can go as fast as they can, and then you froze. So,
oh god.
Yep.
Okay. I said as fast as they can. The 1's going to go as fast as he can. That's kind of when I don't know when I got cut off at, but he's at his best when he just goes as fast as he can for as long as he can. And to me, that says either he's going to take out the other speed completely and it's going to fall apart, or he's just going to be the best of speed and he's going to keep going. So if he's really going to be 8-1, I think that's a great price on him. Who, speed wins a lot of these races. You just go as fast as you can and hope you hang on. And if not, I got a couple closers at prices underneath that I think are pretty interesting as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like it. I didn't have the one anywhere. I just think this horse is too inconsistent, but I do agree with your point that if this horse just kind of gets out to the front, this horse does have a tendency to get brave out there and could just hang on. And if this horse has the intention of being speed of the speed, that could definitely be the case. I guess we should talk about, oh yeah, go ahead.
He's like fierceness in the Derby. He's either going to win by 4 or he's going to be up the track. And there's no in between.
Absolutely, yeah, I can absolutely agree, and you can look at his past races to come to that conclusion as well. We should talk about the favorite, who Kaylie, you and I both have in second here. That is the number 3 Smilemon. What led you to take this horse in second, not on top?
I mean, this horse is in really, really good form. I think what made me pick him second, like Jackson said, the one I saw is the horse that is, obviously he's gonna have to go. And then the 3 is going to have to go. I just don't see any of them holding on. Again, I see a horse like the 11 being able to close, but I did have this horse second, just based off, the form that he comes into this in and his speed figures. So that's why. And then Rob Atcher sits at a pretty high percentage in allowance races at Aqueduct as well. So, and he's in the best form that he's been in, this horse. But I just wanted to add on about the 11 really quick. The race 2 back, the allowance race going a mile, that race, watching that replay was specifically what made me put this horse on top. He was able to close and he went literally from, I'm pretty sure, like last all the way to first, and in a pretty impressive way. He came very wide. I think he came like 4 wide, and he like rallied down the stretch. So that just really impressed me. And I think with the fast pace in this race, that I think it's going to set up perfectly for the 11. So that's kind of why I put some of the speed horses underneath him.
Yeah, without a doubt. We're watching the replay right now, and you nailed it. Came from the back of the pack. The 10 is now 4 or 5 wide here on the dirt with a just sustained rally. And then as they come down the stretch, you can see him here. He's leveling off nicely and just kind of, he's getting to him towards the end, but I think Treaty Obligation just kind of sat a better trip that day. But I definitely can agree that, that's the kind of move you want coming back out of that race. So thank you for touching on the number 3 Modica again, just with that trip note, because that is ever important. And then, just to continue on Smilemon, this one is obviously the horse to beat, coming in off of a second last time out and then a couple wins. And this horse is just in the best form right now. But if unlimited potential sends to the lead, this one is certainly no cinch at this level and doesn't run his best races unless he's on the lead. So this one may need the lead here. And that kind of led me to pick this horse in second. I do think that if Kendrick shows some strong intentions from the gate, again, he's the guy that could be the most aggressive out of there and could just get to the lead, and that might be all she wrote. If he can, outpace the 1 unlimited potential early. However, my top pick in the race is to the middle of the pack, rather. Oh, and we've lost it. Okay, that's the number 7, Liberté de Bayou. And on I believe it was our first show, I picked this horse, if I'm not mistaken, trying to at that allowance race last time out. I wanted this horse to win at a decent price. I'm going to take this horse again here at a morning line of 10-1, which I would be more than happy with. This horse stayed on last time out through a pretty fast pace. You can see the time form through the 3 quarters, all labeled in red. This horse stayed on to get third, and the first, second, and fourth place finishers all faded pretty badly out of here and finished, I think, 6th, 8th, and 9th or something like that. But they finished pretty far back in the track. This one held on as one of the early pace setters here. So I like this one coming back. I like this one stretching out. Second time at this level. Clearly fits in here. I know the buyer might be a little bit light, but I think, I'm willing to look past that because I think the race shape could set up pretty nicely for him. Who knows how fast they're going to go early, but I think this one on the stretch out might really appreciate it. Omaha Beach on the 1-turn mile. I don't hate that at all. As far as the breeding, and clearly I'm not alone because Jackson and Kaylie, you both picked this horse in third. So Jackson, what do you like about this one? And then Kaylie, go ahead and take it from there.
I saw the same thing you did. He's just been a different horse since getting to the dirt. And the last time he was just completely against the race flow. As you mentioned, the pace completely fell apart. He's the only one that stuck around to see that race out at the end. So huge extra credit for him to that. He has to prove he can pass horses because he's not as fast as the 1. He's not as fast as the 3, and he's probably not as fast as the 8 directly to his outside. So not saying he can't do it. He just hasn't done it before. So that was my one question mark. But you're going to get a good price on him. He's going to be 10-1. You got to use him somewhere because he seems like he's on the improve as a late season 3-year-old, and he makes some sense in here if he can build off of that last effort, which again was pretty damn good.
Absolutely. Kaylie, anything to add on the number 7 Liberté de Bayou?
Yeah, I completely agree with what you guys said. He was just passed in his last start. Like you guys said, he stayed with the pace, which is pretty impressive. He was literally just passed at the end. And now stretching out to a mile. I mean, I don't really think that he's not gonna go. Like I think, with a mile, he might sit more so of like a mid-pack trip might be their intention here. I mean, not 100% sure, of course, but I don't imagine them completely sending this horse now at a mile. They don't really have to. I think he can sit kind of a nice little stalking trip, trying out a mile. Like Jackson said, we have the question of whether or not he can pass horses. So I guess we'll find out here, and that's kind of why I put him third as well. But I mean, at that price, I understand why you picked him on top, Ryan. But yeah, and also the Dam. He's also lightly raced as well, which is nice. And the Dam was 5th in the Black Eyed Susan, listed stakes winner at a mile. So this horse really shouldn't have an issue getting a mile. All of his siblings can handle distance, or were best at a mile as well. So it's another thing I looked at as a positive.
I like it. That's why we like having you on the show. You do some pedigree digging, and you give us that added bit about the Dam side there. Before we wrap it up, Jackson, you picked the number 5 and 2nd Brigade Commander. What did you like about this one? Switching back to dirt.
Yeah, he's a little curious horse because when he runs in the dirt, he's always forward. Every time he's forward, and then he goes to the turf, and he's always comes from way out of it. And it without fail, it just goes back and forth, and he just switches his running style. So I'm hoping he can. For once, he can be further back on the dirt because he's going to need to be against this group, and he's got some pretty good dirt form to run back to. I mean, not that long ago, he's running against the likes of Pyrenees and Kaylie, Giostro, and Dreamlike, who are all, those are some top horses, and that was earlier this year that he was right there with those runners. And last time he ran really well. We talked about the cutback earlier. I'm always a sucker for these cutback angles where he came from off the pace. It was a hot pace, made the first move. Got the lead, and then probably just moved too early because he didn't quite see out that trip. But he ran great that day. And he's another one that we keep talking about. If his pace comes apart, I can see him rolling down the lane late, having all the fitness, and he's 8-1 is a pretty good price, I think.
Absolutely, I agree. This last race is a bit of a headache because it could be straightforward if you see the pace holding together, but there's a few that could just dead send to the lead, and this thing could really fall apart that last furlong, half a furlong. That is race number 10. I saw the race 7-3-11. Jackson saw the race 1-5-7. Kaylie saw the race 11-3-7. Those are the last 5 races. And before we get to our pick 5 tickets, I do want to make an announcement for next week's show because we will be previewing Cigar Mile Day out at Aqueduct. It'll be myself, it'll be Jackson, it'll be Kaylie, and I am pleased to announce that a friend of our show, friend of Kaylie's, is going to be joining us. And of course, I'm speaking about Matthew DeSantis. So I'm excited to get him on the show. That's going to be next Wednesday at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, same time this show's always gone on. So I'm excited to get him on. He always has such great insight, such great energy and enthusiasm, and he loves to talk horses, as do the rest of us. So I'm excited to get him on. And that's going to be a lot of fun to talk Cigar Mile Day.
Are the nominations out already for that?
I'll have to check, but I assume so. They're already. You know what? Oh, speaking of, before we get into the pick 5 tickets, Jackson, you made a great point last week on Pacific Horse Players. You said that Skinner deserved to be in the Cigar Mile, and sure enough, he came out and won the Native Diver. So I can't disagree with you that he would have been a well placed at the one-turn Cigar Mile distance. So he finally got his graded stakes win out on the West Coast, which you love to see. But I'm sure the Cigar Mile is going to have a great card. You also have the Remsen Stakes for the babies or for the 2-year-olds. That's going to be awesome to see. But we will get into all that in more detail next week. Right now, let's focus on our Pick 5 tickets. You'll notice the numbers next to the tickets are a lot higher than they were last week. I have changed our budget to just kind of stay under $100. And because, I think with a sequence, that seems reasonable enough. And, I'll just keep it moving from there. I have a $90 Pick 5 ticket. Jackson also has a $90 Pick 5 ticket. And Kaylie has a $72 Pick 5 ticket. Kaylie, why don't you start off and walk us through yours?
Yeah, so I was gonna, I originally I wanted to make a ticket that I would feel comfortable betting at that price that was like my mindset there, because I like to bet on the side as opposed to the Pick 5. But
you're smarter than us.
Yeah, so I'm starting with the 6 race. I just had the 8 and the 3. I know that's kind of skinny in the first leg, but that's just the way that I was pretty comfortable. Oh, I think my computer's frozen right now.
Oh, I can still see you.
You guys still hear me?
Talking, though.
Yep.
Okay. It's frozen, but you guys can still hear me. But yeah, I had the 8 and the 3 in the first leg. And then the second leg, I had the 6, the 8, and the 4. And then in the 8th, I had the 7, 10, 9, and 5. My PPs aren't loading right now, but I know that in the 8th race, you guys used that 5 horse. I didn't put him in my top 3, but I put him on my Pick 5 ticket because he had like a bullet work, which, I thought that was pretty interesting, and that kind of caught my eye. So some of the other reasons you guys said. And then in the 9th race, I went with the 7 and the 3, so scalable, and the Alpine Princess horse. Is that the horse's name? And then in the last race, I went 11, 3, 7, just the top 3 that I talked about.
Nice. I like it. Jackson, why don't you take us through your ticket?
Yeah, and full disclosure, I don't know if I'm going to play this Pick 5 because that first leg I don't love. It's probably a sequence I'd probably play the Pick 4. Just wait for that.
I have a question for you after you go through your Pick 5 too, about your ticket.
Start with the question.
Sure. Why are you going to single Vetriano and not single what you're talking about?
Here's why. I'm getting to that. I'm going to play the Pick 4. I'm going to probably, what I'm thinking is a big double. Just hope you get 3-1 on the 2 favorites, and then play the Pick 4 as well. Hopefully you try to get alive to one of them. Maybe he wins and you hit the double and maybe hit a little extra. And if he does lose, then you're spready and you're alive in the Pick 4 for a decent score. So that's why I was going to wait for the Pick 4 instead of the Pick 5. But if I was to play the Pick 5, just, using the logicals in there, going to play the tote board a little bit, see what happens. Going to spread in that race. Vetriano, he seems so much like the most likely winner that I just had to single him. If he loses, so be it. He just looks super logical in there. And then, as I mentioned, going to try to, for a Pick 4 purpose, going to spread in that race because I think if he doesn't win, then it's super wide open. And if you are able to beat him, you're going to get some good value no matter who wins that race. So covering a lot of horses in that race, just hoping to catch a price for the Pick 4. And the Cumley Stakes, we're hoping Scalable wins because I like her a lot. It's a situation where I think I'll probably come back and play it again, singling her, and then get skinny in that spot. But also going to use Alpine Princess, like you guys said, and then Audacious, hopefully to just get to the lead. And the last race, I really like that one, the 1, 5, and 7. Like I said, I'm completely against those favorites. And the 1, 5, and 7, I think are all 8-1. So any of those 3 are going to offer some pretty good value to close out the sequence.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like it. And thank you for answering that question because that does make a lot more sense now. So I figured you would get to that. I just wanted to jump the gun a little bit. Going through my ticket, I'm going 5 deep in the first leg. I am going to use the Brad Cox second-time starter just because I don't want that horse to knock me out when I'm fading the 2 heavy favorites in the next 2 races. So race number 7, I'm using the 4, the 6, and the 7, who we all talked about. I'm going to fade Vetriano in there. I'm hoping that I'm going to fade that horse and what you're talking about in the 8th race. So I'm going to go 4, 5, 9 in there. I like the 5 off that workout, and then I like the 9. I believe that's Lock and Key, and then the 4. I forget the name, but yeah, that one. So I'm going to go 4, 5, 9 in that leg. In the Grade 3 Cumley Stakes, I am going to single Alpine Princess. That's, in my opinion, the most likely winner on the day. So I feel confident with just Alpine Princess in there. If Scalable beats me, I'll tip my hat to you guys. I will not be using that horse. And then in the final leg, Jackson, you did talk me into Unlimited Potential. I did change this ticket. It was only 3-7-11, and then
Wow.
I kind of thought if
Is that a privilege we have? We can change our tickets mid-show?
no.
All right, just asking.
But no, I mean, you guys could if you wanted to. We've all done that before, but we can all change our opinions. So you made a pretty good case on Unlimited Potential, and if this horse gets out to the lead, this horse can get brave. So if I'm beating other favorites along the way, I wouldn't want to get beat by a nice 8-1 horse that was originally owned by Todd Pletcher or trained by Todd Pletcher, because that horse clearly has some ability somewhere. So I'm going 1-3-7-11. I think Smilemon is beatable. But again, I'm confident using the chalk there, because if I beat two likely odds on favorites in Vetriano and What You Talking About, I'm going to be alive to a pretty nice score. So that's my pick 5 ticket. And Jackson, unlike your very smart, 8-10 double hoping for 3-1, I'm going to just go ahead and wheel the pick 6 and just single Vetriano and single What You Talking About. And we'll see how the day goes, because that's how I like to play this game. So
I hope you're right. I do hope you're right, but we got.
Technically, I got to be right on one of those. Man. I got to be right on one of those, but we'll see. But those are our pick 5 tickets. Again, $100 budget on this one, so we're able to get some coverage and we're able to press up a single if we had it, or in a deep and competitive sequence, we're able to spread a little bit and get some coverage where we wanted it. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, next week, we are going to be covering the Cigar Mile Day out at Aqueduct. Very excited for that. That's an awesome card, top to bottom. We're going to have Matthew DeSantis of NYRA Bets joining us as well. And obviously, Jackson, Kaylie, you'll be here too. So to everybody that tuned in and watched, thank you guys. Have a happy Thanksgiving if you are, if you're celebrating. And I hope everybody, has a pretty healthy food coma going on into Thursday afternoon, and then watch some football or do whatever. Watch some Churchill Downs Stakes action. Actually, let's do that one. That's probably more on brand for our show. But Jackson, Kaylie, any parting words here?
Completely agree. I will be watching Churchill Downs on my couch all day, probably throughout Thanksgiving. But yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Absolutely.
This is Jackson. Thank you, New York Giants, for giving the Eagles Saquon Barkley. You guys are the best. Appreciate y'all.
This guy's born on the West Coast and is a Philadelphia Eagles fan. I won't ask questions right now. There's not enough time in the day for that. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Happy Thanksgiving. We will see you next week when we cover the Cigar Mile Day with Matthew DeSantis joining the show. Until next time, I've been Ryan. It's Jackson and Kaylie. Have a good one. We'll see you.